everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. This is a presentation by TimeSolve. My name is Joyce Brafford. I am an employee of an organization called ProfitSolve. We are the parent company of TimeSolve, and today we are going to talk about some really important things. Specifically, we are going to talk about 5 steps to simplify the time and billing process. Now, you might think to yourself, time and billing is complex. There's no real way to simplify it. And to be very frank with you, that's probably true. But there are some best practices that you can put into place to make the routine more comfortable for you so that you have an easier time billing your clients, you create more consistent bills, and you get paid faster, because ultimately that's the goal here, isn't it? So let's get started. So about me, I'm Joyce Brafford. I'm an attorney. I have been working in legal practice management since 2011. I think that effectively qualifies me to be legal nerd. I think I'm going to just own that title. I know that I certainly like calling myself that. And I am, in fact, the world's luckiest mom. I have my wonderful mother, my girl, and my little man who always looks ready to file his taxes. So take a moment to appreciate that little serious face. 2 totally different personalities, right? But man, luckiest mom in the world. All right, so let's talk about what we're going to do today. Pretty straightforward. I normally have, here's 5 steps and here's how you implement and here's the timeline. No, today we're going to talk about 5 things you can start doing right now. That's it. And then we're going to save some time for questions at the end. So let's talk about our 5 best practices. What are our 5 rules? What are our 5 steps? 1, you need to mirror your billing practice across every practice area and across all of your clients. I want you to get away from the idea that every client is a special snowflake. Oh, those all came in at the same time, didn't they? I want you to track your time consistently. I want you to stay in your billing system. I don't want you to take things out of your system and make edits to it. I want you to integrate with a payment processor, and I want you to use a payment structure. I want you to identify how you want your clients to pay you, and I want you to put them on that payment structure. That can be a payment plan or not. We'll talk about that. I don't want you to think about payment plans just in terms of collections, right? We're going to talk about payment structures for law firms. All right, so how do we mirror our steps? And I found these lovely TimeSolve blue mirrored disco balls, and I thought that they were just fun. We don't often think about the time and billing process as being a real party, but I want you to be excited about it. This is how you get paid. This is how your clients know that you are working for them. So it's pretty important. And if we go into it with the right attitude, sometimes it can help us be more successful, right? So the attitude is what you get. That's all very hippy dippy stuff, but let's go into it. So number 1, keep your billing deadlines consistent. I want you to stop ad hoc billing. Don't bill just when you've completed work for something. Bill at a designated time at the end of the month, mid-month, beginning of the month, whatever it happens to be. I like to review bills that have happened for the previous month the first week of the following month. I want to have time to review those bills. I want to make sure that everything that I am billing for the previous month is there. Now, you might say, Joyce, what do I do if I have clients that I don't actually have any bills for, right? What do I do if I have just non-billable time for my client? Not a big deal. You still generate that invoice and you still send it to that client, right? Why are we doing that? 1, because it's important. 1, you just want to have a record of it, even if all you're doing is putting it in the file. So you can see at the end of this month, this is what this was. This is my reconciliation report for this particular client on the hours that I have worked for them. This is what I've done. Did I do nothing? Well, signal to me, maybe I need to be doing something. Maybe I don't. Truly just depends, right? Your particular practice area. But be consistent. Have a designated time every month that you are doing billing for all of your clients, and put that on your calendar. If you are not designated time and it's not on your calendar, it's going to be really challenging to have the time to get back to clients. Put your phone on silent. Have your emergency contacts. So if you were like me, you have an iPhone, you have emergency contacts that can get through your do not disturb. Right? You need to turn on do not disturb with only your emergency contacts allowed to get through. Don't take client phone calls during that time. Do the same workflow to create and edit all of your time entries. right? So no matter which work in progress, which pre-bill I have generated for a client, I'm going to go through with the same level of detail, and I'm going to go through with the same expectation that I can look at that time. I can see that it's properly documented. I can see that there's an accurate description on there, and I can see that the description matches the amount of time that I've worked on it. So if I have something that says legal research 17 hours in one day, well, that's not accurate, is it? Right? So I'm going to look, I'm going to know, I'm going to use my brain, and I'm going to do that for every single bill. I'm going to scan through, and I'm going to use the same workflow to review and edit all of my invoices. So even after I finalize them, I'm going to look at them, right? Now, here's the trick, right? If you are following the next step, all of this gets much, much easier, because if you were going through every pre-bill, every invoice with a fine-tooth comb and saying, oh, I'm not sure, it really can take you multiple days to get through your billing process. I don't want you to do that, but I do want you to recognize that if you are not consistently billing everyone at the same time and you're not using the same steps, this is how I run. These are the dates that I run. These are the things that I check for on this invoice. This is how I sign off on the invoice to know that it's completed. If I don't have those 1, 2, 3, 4 steps on every invoice that I'm going through, it's really easy to miss something. It's really easy to make a mistake and to inaccurately bill my client, which no one wants to do, right? All right, so here we go. Number 2, you're going to track time consistently. And you might say to me, Joyce, I'm trying to track time. That's the whole point. That's why I'm here. I get it. Okay. Tracking time is not the easiest thing in the world. You can have a million timers out there and still miss time. So how do we fix this? One, I want you to use the built-in timers in TimeSolve. Now, you might say, well, I'm just thinking about TimeSolve. I don't actually have TimeSolve yet. This is a great time to go ahead and invest in yourself. Invest in yourself, invest in this resource, because it is important to you. TimeSolve has multiple timers that you can run simultaneously. When you start one, another one ends. But if you're moving back and forth between tasks, you're going to be able to say, start timer, start this, A, B, C, and you're going to be able to keep track of your time. Not only do you have a timer in your lovely version online that you're accessing, the cloud-based version of TimeSolve, you also have a desktop version. So if you don't want to be online and you just want to have a timer up that is truly tracked to your account, pull up your desktop app in TimeSolve and run your timer. Use your phone if you'd like to, but keep those timers running. I'm saying all these things, right? Here's the big tip, though. This is my hot tip for you. If you take nothing away from this presentation other than the next 30 seconds, audit your day. Have 2 time periods during your day, one mid-morning, one late afternoon, but before the end of the day, where you say, what have I done today? I want you to look at your calendar. I want you to pull your phone log. I want you to just quickly look at your sent emails. And I want you to say to yourself, did I track that? Did I track that? And if you didn't, you need to go and spend the next 20 minutes and you need to put time on those things, on calendar events, on tasks, on phone calls, on other correspondence that you've engaged with your client, on work product, on legal research, whatever it happens to be. If you are working on behalf of your clients and not an administrative task for your firm, you need to put some billable time on that. And maybe it's going to be unbillable time. Maybe you work flat fee, maybe you work contingency, but you need to put time on it and mark it as unbillable time, but you need to see what you are doing. There is no excuse. There is zero excuse for you at the end of a matter to be unclear on the total amount of time that you've worked for that client. Understanding how much time you put into a matter, understanding how much time you put into a client helps you accurately create your forecast. How much can I actually do this month? How much can I actually bill this month? How much revenue am I able to collect this month? What's my total cap, right? So you need to be aware of that. And importantly, schedule your recurring appointments. And I say appointments because I really mean appointments with yourself. Schedule these recurring appointments. When are you going to respond to client email? Chances are you don't need to respond to client email all day long. It is enticing. You see something pop up and you want to reply to a client. Stop. Truly stop. That urgency that we have to respond to every trigger, that Pavlovian response to the ding of the iPhone. Okay, stop, slow down, take a moment, complete the task that you're on right now, and then come back when it's email time. to respond to emails. That's how you do things thoughtfully. Otherwise, you get lost in tasks and you truly can't stay on top of your timers. If you are moving like a dog after a squirrel between tasks, you're not going to remember to turn your timer on. So be thoughtful, be diligent, be professional in how you handle yourself, your billing, right? The third tip that I want to give you is to stay in your billing system. It is incredibly easy to generate an invoice, and it comes out as a Microsoft Word document, to be on the phone with your client or to edit it in Word and say, oh, I'm just going to write that down. You know what? I'm going to bill a little bit more for that. I put the wrong rate on that, or whatever it happens to be. And you make the change in a PDF, or you make the change in a Microsoft document. Do not do that. Do not do that. Do not do that. I'm going to say it again for those in the back. Do not do that. All of your edits need to be made within the system. And if you need to generate that invoice again, then you get on it and you generate that invoice again. Otherwise, you are not going to have any idea when you go back and you pull up your practice, your time and billing system, how much someone actually owes you. Stay in the system. Do not ever make document edits outside of the system. Review your pre-bills with a workflow, right? Like we mentioned before, if you're tracking your time the way that you need to be, you're going to know, you will have audited on a daily basis the time that you spent on those tasks, right? You're going to look at this workflow. Did I actually do these things for the clients? Intuitively, does it make sense that I spent that much time on that? I know that I have a timer that was running, or I've manually adjusted that time to be accurate. And I'm going to write off or make adjustments within the system. If I know that something is wrong, I am going to go back into TimeSolve and I'm going to make it happen there. And finalized invoices should always remain final. And what I mean when I say finalized invoices, I mean an invoice that you have gone through your workflow with and you say, yes, send this to my client. It's final. I'm sending it to my client. I'm either going to print it off or I'm going to email it from the system to my client. Once that client is the recipient, whether we're saying mailbox rule and it's in the actual mail, or you've sent it via email, right? You do not need to make changes to that invoice, period. Don't go back in and say, oh, no, this is the new invoice, right? You need to now create a second invoice for your client where you show the adjustments, right? And I know it's so tempting to just make the changes. Don't do it. You need to reflect what you have done in your system. All right, next, number 4, integrate with a payment processor. We know the clients want to pay. They have engaged with us as professional service providers. They want to pay us. We need to meet them exactly where they are. You don't pay your client. You don't pay anyone with a check unless it's, your kid's school and you're paying for something, right? A field trip or something. And then they're saying pay by check because we haven't set up online payments, right? But everything else, school pictures, my water bill, my mortgage, whatever it happens to be, I pay everything online, and probably you do too. Meet clients exactly where they are, which is taking online payments. But here's the kicker. You must use legal specific tools. If you are using a small business tool, it is incredibly likely that they are charging your client or charging you at the same time that invoice is being processed. You cannot do that. I'm going to stop again and say, you cannot do that. If you want to talk to your bar association about it and say, hey, is this okay? And they tell me I'm wrong, then you come back and you email me and you tell me that I'm wrong about that. But your credit card processing fees must be paid separately from the actual invoice, right? Yes, you can surcharge your clients in certain jurisdictions, but they need to be made aware of that. But you cannot take processing fees out of the invoice that should have gone to you, right? So if you're using something like, I don't want to say names here, right? I don't want to say names, but if you're using just a little dongle that slides into your phone, that's from just a typical consumer solution, it is not legal specific, and you are very likely violating your rules of professional conduct, and you just need to be aware of that. And please remember that integration is better than syncing. If you have a tool that syncs with your accounting software, that's one thing, right? But what you want is something that's truly integrated. So you have information coming in and going out. A sync simply means you have information in one database that is then pushed unilaterally to a secondary database. You're not getting information back and forth. I want you to have an integrated payment processor that will see when payments are made when payments are partially made, when they're overpaid. And I want you to have a system that's going to reflect the invoice, not just show up in your bank account, right? I want a client to be able to log back in and click a link and say, oh, that's not the amount I owe anymore. Delightful, right? So I want you to use an integrated tool. Thankfully, TimeSolve has a great tool called TimeSolve Pay. It's built into the system. There are no additional fees for usage. So you have it, you're using it, it's there. They have industry leading rates. And you're not going to get a better experience. So it's not just the fact that it is one of the least expensive tools on the market. That's secondary here. What matters is the integration and the functionality that is available to you. And lastly, I want you to create a payment structure. Okay. I want you to send a notice when an invoice is upcoming, and I want you to bill a card on file. Now you might say, Joyce, you don't have a card on file. What are you talking about? Well, that tip before, integrated payment processors, I want you to get a credit card and I want you to put it on file. So you send an invoice, and at a designated time, 10 or 15 days later, that invoice is automatically charged against the card that they have on file. That's how you get paid, and that's how you make this easy. Now, if you don't have a card on file, or your client refuses to put a card on file, you send an invoice and then you send a reminder of that invoice 15 or 20 days later. I want you to send it close to the due date, but not after the due date. Remind them that they have an active invoice. Give them a chance to pay before it's late. You can also send a reminder at 30, 50, or 65 days. And then for overdue, remind them about payment plans. In TimeSolve, you have the ability to set recurring payments at smaller amounts than the invoice. You can do this for anyone, right? They don't even have to be overdue. You can set recurring payments, and you can also charge finance charges if someone is overdue. So you have tools that are available to you right now within TimeSolve. And then this is not one of the top 5 tips, but please remember the customer experience. Communication is key here. You need to have written payment expectations. Your staff, or just you, need to be responsive to client questions about payments and getting payment on file. You need to offer reliable answers, and that means what you say is truthful. I don't want you to just say, oh, we'll get back to you tomorrow about it, if you're not going to get back to someone. I don't want you to tell someone that they can go on a payment plan if you're not going to set up a payment plan for them. But I will say, if you need assistance with setting up payments, if you need assistance with helping your clients pay you, the TimeSolve staff is available. And good experiences are not always defined by case outcome. Most of us have had a good experience with a service provider, even if our outcome was poor, right? I know I certainly have, but I will continue to do business with that service provider because they are a trusted professional that I know is going to be honest with me and be fair with me. And that's what I'm looking for. All right, I do try to limit these. I try to cap them at 20 minutes. It is officially 2:20 right now. So we went through that pretty quickly, but it is recorded. You will get a copy of it in your email. You can always go to timesolve.com. If you haven't already started a trial, please do so today. The TimeSolve team will be very happy to walk you through absolutely any portion of the software. It is an industry leading software for good reason. Get that payment methodology on file. That's your biggest goal here. That's your takeaway. Get that payment on file. All right. Well, it looks like we are just about done. Like I said, I like to end these at 20 minutes. You all have billing that you need to do. I know that. Again, let's just roll through this really quickly to show you what we need to remember today. Our 5 best practices: mirror your billing practices across all practice areas, track your time consistently, stay in your billing platform, integrate with a legal specific payment processor, and use a payment structure that your clients are familiar with. With that, folks, I'm going to end here. Like I said, you'll get this brief webinar in your email, and please reach out to the TimeSolve team if you have any questions. Thank you all so much, and have a great day.